Welcome, Munchins and Crunchins, to Geek Salad's Rich Work. We've got Mr. Thomas Green. How you doing?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Back from his car again.
I returned.
What are you driving there, Thomas?
Yeah. So, joining us as well, but she had some stuff come up, so she'll be joining us on a future podcast because we've got some really cool topics coming up. But before we begin, Tom, tell us about your show.
Well, the show's basically myself and my good friend Alex Duez. He and I basically turned our 1 a.m. Denny's sit and bitch cast.
Summer, right?
Yes.
Damn, you're gonna make me watch that movie now.
You're
gonna make me watch that movie now, aren't you?
No.
Todd, Mike, how you guys doing?
No release day. I'm pumped.
Why are we here? Oh yeah, that's why.
Well, we would have been there last night.
Well, that's true. We would have been there last night. Where, Mike?
They moved it to November.
Yesterday.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
if you go online, you can see someone has found the perfect salt in the wound and made a meme
month with a movie that you essentially picked for us on our Twitter and Facebook polls. You had the
in the bag.
See that?
Hercules.
I thought Hercules was gonna. Even though I was gunning for Great Mouse Detective, I was convinced Hercules was guaranteed.
It was close. It was really close. To your point, Mike, I don't really feel like Beauty and the Beast is one of the ones that gets talked to death about. I mean, it's in that top 5 of all Disney animated.
You've played it 2 more times than Ewan McGregor, then.
Correct. Correct.
Oh dear. Yeah. I was a little surprised. I honestly thought that Great Mouse Detective was actually going to end up being the winner. Hercules really led because we actually had to split up the poll because Twitter doesn't let us do more than a week. So I moved the poll to Facebook, and Black Cauldron just annihilated everything on Facebook. So another reason to hate Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily.
Russian bots.
Yep.
Real Henwen fans out in Russia.
Get up, Mike. I'm not going to Google Translate, and I'm not going to. Yes, let us discuss the first PG-rated Disney animated film. Also, the film that nearly killed their animation studio, and it had been in the works since the early 70s, The Black Cauldron.
Woo.
Did you take a chance to go on Disney Plus and watch it in the last week? You did? Yeah. Oh, thank you all for doing your homework.
It's fresh.
I'll start like I usually do with these shows. When was the first time you saw The Black Cauldron?
I'll start. I thought it would on in the drive-in. That
maybe. I mean, you would. It came out in 85.
I would have been 7
years old. That's entirely possible.
Yeah, but that was also it was about that time. Then my parents just stopped going to movies completely. But we still did go to the drive-in a few times, so I may have seen it there. Or Magic World Disney, I'm not sure.
It does feel distinctly like the second movie of a drive-in double feature.
Yeah,
it does.
The kids are asleep. Let's bring out the weird shit.
Yeah, Tom, how about you?
First time I saw it was when I was in middle school. I had just finished reading the books, and my aunt and uncle owned it. And I didn't know why we didn't, because we had such a large variety of Disney movies. But my aunt and uncle had it, and I watched it, and I immediately told my dad, okay, I get why we didn't own this. I understand now.
This was the last big release to come out during my tenure with Suncoast. So, yep, drink. And I actually don't have a drink in front of me, which is crazy.
That's fine. You're telling a story.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And because it was available, and it was also available in widescreen because it was the second movie to be shot in 70 millimeter. The first being Sleeping Beauty, which was also available on VHS widescreen.
Which we also did a review for in this month.
Yes. So that was the first time I saw it, but I saw it in bits and pieces. I honestly didn't see this thing from stem to stern until about 2.5 years ago when we got it off of a streaming service, Showbox. Speaking of the Russian mafia, and watched it that way prior to Disney Plus putting it on theirs. So, and then we watched it again last week.
And what about Todd?
Yeah, so I distinctly remember this movie from when I was a kid. This movie came out the year I was born, so obviously I didn't see it in theaters.
Opening night, man. Opening night.
My brothers had the video game by Sierra Online for the Apple II DS, and I remember distinctly playing that as a kid, so I knew all about Henwen and Gurgi and the Horn King and all of that stuff. I didn't see this movie from, what did you call it? Tip to taint? Stem to stern. I didn't see it stem to stern until I think I did a big Disney movie rewatch in, I want to say like 2010. And I saw a bunch of the lesser known Disney movies, Home on the Range and Brother Bear. I got them all from my local library, and this was one of them. So I watched it then. I also watched it just last night with my daughter. So super fresh.
So, all right, let me ask as a dad, and Tom, I'm sure you haven't shown your daughter this yet.
No.
It's wise. She's like what, 3?
She's 2.5.
2.5. Okay, yeah. So definitely a wise choice not to show her.
Wait on that one.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't even show her Sleeping Beauty, to be honest.
Todd, what did your daughter think of this one?
She didn't love it, honestly. I kept looking over at her, and we were eating dinner at the same time, and it, she was enthralled by it, which was good. I think and we'll talk about the animation and the sound design and the voice acting and everything, but I could tell that she was just a little like, what are we watching? I don't know what this is,
Yeah.
Very unsure of what we were actually watching. So, but she said she liked it overall.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter has read the books, so she was a little more iffy on this. My son loved it, but then again, whenever I have to do a movie watching project, like a few months ago, I had to watch The Sorcerer's Apprentice when I guested on the Cage's Kiss podcast, and he fucking loved it. This is the Nicolas Cage Sorcerer's Apprentice. He's running around just like fucking magicking things, and I'm like, God, why? Why did you like this one?
It's your fault. It's all your fault.
It is my fault, because that hat that Nick Cage wears, or that jacket that he wears, essentially are made out of witch's skin, I believe.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's like the witch's hat in What We Do in the Shadows. The one that is cursed. Let's get the positive stuff out of the way now, because I have a feeling this conversation is going to devolve into, as Tom put it, the 1 a.m. Denny's conversation, and I don't have my Superbird Club and my endless cup of coffee. So, positives. Tom, we'll start with you. Positives on this one. What do you like?
I mean, Todd or Tom?
I said Tom, you are our guest. Okay. But if Todd has something also, you can
go for it. I cede my time.
Well, very much like how the Howard the Duck movie is responsible for giving us Pixar, this movie is responsible for giving us Tim Burton. So I appreciate that. I had to do like a big project on Tim Burton in high school, and that's where I found this out. He was supposed to be one of 2 head artistic designers for this film, with one of the old 9 that was still alive at the time.
I thought he was involved with Fox and the Hound as well.
He was, but they pulled him off of that because they found his designs too jarring, even for background stuff. but they thought he would be great for Black Cauldron. They put him on it, and the whichever one of the old 9 it was that he was working with treated him horrifically, like vetoed every design he had, treated him badly, like kept trying to get him fired. So their apology for how he was treated on this film was the Frankenweenie short, which was what made Paul Rubens want to hire him as the director for Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and the rest is very strange history.
Interesting.
It's Tim Burton history.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the very least, it's got that going for it, but it does the like sweeping landscape stuff with this, like the pull-ins to castles and stuff has a very fun animation to it, very different feel to it, which is nice.
Okay. How about you, Todd? With the
I like the story. Honestly, I love Lord of the Rings. I've never read these books, but this feels a lot like Lord of the Rings to me. Has some of those same story elements to it. So I really enjoy that kind of high fantasy, medieval kind of feeling to it. I also think these are very human characters that they've created, which is a little bit shocking to me considering the trouble they went through with the film itself, the era in which it was made, and just kind of the overall premise of this pig farmer. It worked for me though. I thought it was pretty cool. The Cauldron Born are awesome. I love that whole sequence. So there's some things that really, really work for me in this movie.
All right, Mike, how about you?
I kind of pick back on a lot of what Todd said. Like the Cauldron Born are cool. I ended up liking Flute or Flam a lot more than I thought it would.
Okay.
When I first saw him, I was like, okay, I get this. And then, but as this movie goes on, I'm like, oh, okay, he's actually a more interesting character than I thought he would be. For the most part, I actually did like the voice acting.
Okay.
And I mean, outside of Gwythaints, those are all genuinely creepy and scary creatures. And I thought it was actually kind of a nice little. It was almost refreshing in a movie where the rest of the characters are very. They have a little bit more of a comical slant to them.
All right. I think we can all agree also that John Hurt is got a great voice for the Horned King.
Oh, yeah, that gravelly, deep voice. Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Easily the best voice work in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for my positive take on the movie, this movie is ambitious as hell.
Yeah.
It wants to do a lot, and that's the other problem with this movie. It's blessing and it's
again and trying to figure out if they could do something else with them.
I mean, in the whole of the Disney animated canon, this is kind of the Easter egg. Not everybody knows about this movie. I mean, unless you're, either a hardcore fan or you're someone like if you've read the books or if you grew up I was 13 years old when this movie came out. I was a perfect age to go see it. I didn't see it in the theater, obviously, as I mentioned before. But I was the perfect age for this type of movie.
You were
on VHS. Now I'm the perfect age to have expendable money to go buy this movie on VHS.
What were we saying, Todd?
No, he was Terran aged at the time. So
Yeah.
you are the main character of this movie when it came out.
Yes.
And he's a pig farmer.
You're a pig
Yeah,
farmer.
well, I was a pig farmer.
Excuse me, pig keeper.
Sorry.
Assistant pig keeper.
Pig keeper. Assistant pig keeper.
Oh, pig man.
Tobin.
It's funny because when we were watching it, Autumn caught a little bit of it, and if you watched the season of Downton Abbey where they actually get more like they actually have a pig man and they just keep referring to him as the pig man. like every time she walk in, it's like he's not a pig man, he's a pig boy.
Assistant pig boy.
Assistant pig boy.
Yeah, he has to graduate to pig boy.
Let me ask you guys this: Does it feel like this movie essentially felt like it was like stitched together with staples from 3 different movies?
Yeah, well, and part of that is, I can say, as someone who's read the books, it is taking random parts of the first book and random parts of the second book and trying to push them together, leaving out some of the important characters and things of that nature. But it's as a result of being a weird adaptation, it does have that thrown together feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually feel about this one kind of the opposite of how I feel about the Hobbit movies. The Hobbit movies were, one book, one very short book stretched into 3 very long movies, and it felt it. I mean, they were grasping to fill anything in there. This one, it felt like 2 books just kind of crammed in together into one really short movie. I mean, without the credits, it's only about an hour and 16 minutes.
Yeah.
And it just, a lot of it felt rushed. You got the characters just meeting up, and you like the characters, but they're like forcing relationships that really have no foundation.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, Mike, that's interesting you bring up that analogy, because I was just thinking that the cramming of these 2 books is very similar to the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings. That takes all of Fellowship and a little more than half of the 2 Towers and crams those into a reasonably short, I think it was just shy of 2 hours movie.
Yeah.
But you cut out a lot of stuff. But I'm even talking stuff like the animation. The animation, there are certain things, especially there's a scene where the Horned King is walking down these steps, and it's almost like they had left the backgrounds out in the sun for a little bit and then laid the animation cells over that, because they didn't look jointed at all. They didn't look like they were all part of the same reality.
Well, like the scene where Taran sees the Horned King's palace, castle for the first time. Mm-hmm. He's on that kind of crest, and there is a very distinct outline around his figure that showing, this is where they painted his character onto already the pre-done background. I mean, there is a very distinct difference in there. It's not, I'm not, using a magnifying glass there. It is very visible to see.
Very apparent.
Yeah. Well, and they were doing a lot of experimenting with CGI with this film, and it shows. It really shows that blend they had, even with Rescuers Down Under, they had that blend of cell and CGI really figured out. With this film, though, it's jarringly separated.
Yeah. The other thing too, did anybody else feel like you were going through some of the non-playable levels of Dragon's Lair?
That's actually was one of the other things I was going to say, is very much how we were talking with Emperor's New Groove, how that was Disney's Looney Tunes movie. This very much felt like Disney's Don Bluth movie. Yeah. Like they decided because I had sitting there watching the movie this time, having seen more animated films from more animation studios, I kept feeling like, wow, I'm watching Dragon Lair or Quest for Camelot or Anastasia. I'm watching one of those Don Bluth films with his particular animation style. And I think by this point he had left and taken a chunk of the animation studio with him from Disney. I think he had already done it by this point.
Yeah, he had left in 79.
Especially the Three Witches. The Three Witches seemed very Don Bluth-ish.
Oh, God. Is this the first Disney movie that actually makes several boob jokes?
Yeah.
Probably.
No, I'd say second, because while you won't see them in Blu-ray copies, you have to find like the first release DVD of it. The first Fantasia during Symphony Number 9 with the nymphs and the centaurs, there's just boobs, races. I mean, the word, like everything that you don't think you're going to see in a Disney animated kids film is in that one section of the movie. So I'd say this is second.
But a healthy 45-year gap between those two. So
they pace themselves pretty intensely.
They're classified as different eras, so they may as well just be like Fantasia may as well just not even exist at this point.
Sadly, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in there. Like the fairies seemed very tacked in.
Yep.
What's interesting about that too is if you want to get into like its animation competition for that year, it's infamous for having been beaten out box office wise by the Care Bears movie. Not a joke. Actually, Disney's most expensive movie that they had ever done at that point was beaten out by a $2 million production of the Care Bears. And I felt like those fairies that show up a little more than halfway through the movie should have been in the Care Bears movie.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've read the books. I don't remember them. And I don't remember them being that like adorable.
I honestly, I felt watching the movie this time, I felt like I was starting to forget parts of the book. It felt like it was actually taking my memories away from me. Well, because I'm sitting there watching it going, I need to remember what was in the books. That way I have that to talk about. And the main thing I could remember was that it's not furry Gollum that goes into the cauldron in the books.
Yeah, Gurgi.
Yeah, it's not Gurgi that goes into the cauldron in the books. In the books, the second book comes along and there's like egotistical prince that
I don't want spoilers. So I'm not listening right now.
Oh, yeah. Mike just got the books on Audible, so we can't really spoil the.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll stop there. My apologies.
No problem.
Don't. Yeah.
From what I have looked up, though, Dolly is a character in the books.
Mm.
Oh,
I don't know if he's a fairy. I don't know if he's a fairy. I think they classify him as a dwarf in the books, but
right. I don't doubt that he's there. I'm just like it after you just got out of the castle and you've got all this darkness and you've been introduced to the Horned King. The cutesy little like multicolor fairies really take you out of the movie. Again, that's as I was mentioning before. This seems like it's 3 different movies.
Mm.
That Taryn and how do you pronounce your name? Elinwee?
Elinwee.
Elinwee? It's just like you're walking through these movies that they don't belong in.
Elinwee, I think.
Elinwee.
Elinwee, yeah.
I forgot Disney princess.
Princess Elemento.
Well, and that's one of the other things that I think also is part of what makes this feel off is that Lloyd Alexander, when he wrote the Chronicles, he based them, I can't remember the name of it, but he based them off of an Irish folklore.
Welsh.
A
Welsh folklore.
Yeah.
Welsh folklore, yeah. So there's by making it sort of generic English instead of keeping it with that culture, I think that kind of enhances the feeling that certain things feel off or like they don't belong, like the princess. Because yeah, the princess, especially with the name, just does not feel like she belongs in the movie at all.
Yeah.
Mabingion. Mabinagion.
I'm gonna have to get your word for that.
Yeah.
Abiogen, something like that. Yeah.
My daughter pointed out something very interesting, though, is that both of them have the same facial design.
Yep.
The only thing that separates them is eye color and hair. And hair. That's it. It's the exact same character face drawn on 2 different bodies.
Yeah. I mean, let's say they were. This is the animation studio was not doing well at the time, so it was obviously a cost-cutting measure. And well, actually, a lot of this movie was a cost-cutting measure. And it didn't work because it cost like
46 million to make, 20 million domestic.
Yeah, that's
in 1985 dollars.
And this is the movie that I think this is the movie that brought us Michael Eisner.
No, actually, they had already been high. I just watched a thing on YouTube about this right before we started. They had come in the year before.
Oh.
And Jeffrey Katzenberg hated the original cut so much that he took it to the editing room himself and cut out a whole. It's like, they had to like get two goons to like drag him away. He's like, no, I'm not done yet. Let me go.
And now it kind of makes me want to see the original.
Yeah, this was during the infamous power battle that was going on behind the scenes, and that was one of his big jumps to try to consolidate that power.
Yeah, it's. I told Mike this when I watched it last week. It's like for a movie that barely cracks an hour 20. I felt like there was a lot of filler in this movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I disagreed because I thought the whole thing actually felt kind of rushed.
It's weird. You know what? I think you and I can both be right about this.
Yeah, I was about to say I think you're both right in a weird way. I think you're both spot on with that.
Todd, you've been quiet, man. What are you thinking?
No, I agree with both of you. It felt rushed, but also there's scenes in there that I'm like, that's completely unnecessary. It doesn't lend anything to the story. It doesn't lend anything to character development. It's there because look what we can draw, or look what we can do with computers now. And it just doesn't, there's definitely some filler in there, but at the same time, it's rushed. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then let's get to the fact this movie needed two golems, apparently, between Gurgi and Creeper.
Yeah. Well, you needed a good golem and a bad golem.
Oh, my God. But it was like, I mean, Gurgi was Jar Jar Binks before Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
And I have no proof to back this up, but I almost want to guarantee if you ran Phantom Menace and the Black Cauldron at the same time and just kept an eye on the time signatures, they appear at the exact same time stamp of their movies.
Oh, I can see that. Let's put something in. Even though I like Gurgi.
Okay.
I like it. I hate Jar Jar. I love Gurgi.
The funny thing for me with Gurgi is that even though this was made beforehand, I felt like they just took Abu from Aladdin, slowed his audio down just like a quarter, so that way you could understand the words coming out of his mouth, and then just put that in for Gurgi. It felt like that.
I don't mind Gurgi, but like I said, his relationship with pretty much all of the main characters was very. I mean, when he first meets Tarn, he is a thief, and Tarn chucks the apple to him and goes off to the castle, and for some reason Gurgi decides to hang around and wait for him. I mean, they've met like literally 5 minutes before, and suddenly he's master, hello. Where did this relationship come from?
Yeah.
You know what? It was in the book somewhere.
Yeah. It was part of the one of the parts that Katzenberg cut out.
You don't need to see that shit.
They completely didn't notice it.
The weirdest part about Gurgi also is he's voiced by John Byner, and I might be the only person who has seen John Byner's other work. He had a show called Bizarre, which was kind of like a more adult version of Saturday Night Live. And it's a show that actually introduced Super Dave Osborne.
Oh.
So, but it's filthy. It's raunchy and it's filthy. And then I remember being a kid and being familiar with the show Bizarre. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, he's doing the voice? of a cartoon character? I might be 13, but I'm not dumb. And then Creeper. Is Creeper just there to get to get Bart Simpsoned every time something went wrong?
Yes.
I think Creeper was there to kind of. I think Creeper was there honestly to add some comedy to the Horn King, because on his own, Horn King is legit. I mean, there is no comic about it. Like I said, he is pure evil. He's an evil menace. There's no laughing at him. So you needed to have something.
Nor should there be.
You needed to have something there to lighten that, to make it PG.
I was laughing at the Horn King a little bit because of how chill he is about everything. He's like, oh, there's the pig keeper. Let's see what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Let's just see how this plays out. Like, I feel like the Horn King was menacing, absolutely, and didn't have much humor to it. But I was like, oh, he's pretty chill about this whole thing.
Yeah.
He was Cauldron, but he's pretty chill.
It's that John Hurt quality like he had in Snowpiercer, especially, where it's just like, oh, the world's collapsing around me. That's cute.
All right. Now, Tom, I have to ask you this. Todd, Mike, feel free to pitch in as well. Wasn't it a little weird to hear John Huston's voice at the very beginning of this movie and then never again?
Because I hadn't watched the movie since I was in middle school, I thought, I didn't remember there being a narration, but I'll dig this narration and that he's done. It was very much that of being like, oh, I'm on board, and really?
I mean, I don't get me wrong, I love John Huston's voice. He's got a great voice.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear a lot more of it. Maybe there's something at the end instead of having just Dolbins watching them wander off into a new adventure.
Yeah.
And that was the interesting thing, because it's almost like, it's kind of like when your cat does something like quick and crazy. You're just like, what was that? It's like John Huston's narration. It's like, what was that?
He got contracted for like 200 words, and that's it.
No more, no less.
At the very beginning. It's crazy.
And they probably gave him more, but then they had to cut it like they did in the Three Amigos.
I was about to say, it's probably reversed The Killers, where instead of just adding a bunch of excessive narration, they just went in there and just started taking all of it out.
Yeah.
But since they paid him, they decided to leave his little opening bit in.
Oh,
He does give some name recognition. I don't know if they marketed it at all, but he's a big name, right? In the mid 80s, he's legendary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how much they marketed the movie, let alone him.
Yeah.
So,
This is before they started letting you know who the voice cast was.
that's true.
That really, I'll be honest with you, I don't even think it happened during Aladdin when they actually had the opportunity to do that.
I'm pretty sure they did Robin Williams as the genie in the trailers, because you got Robin Williams, you want to bank with Robin Williams,
right?
Well, yeah, and that was during that era where Disney was really having fun with the behind the scenes trailers, where like part of the trailer for The Lion King after the teaser one, trailers after that would sometimes include the animators in the auditorium with the animals that they were using for inspiration. Aladdin, I remember them using B-roll of Robin Williams doing his voice work.
Yeah. Well, they would do that also. They would, when you got like a Disney VHS right before the movie, it's like, here's a sneak peek of the next thing coming from Disney Animation Studios.
Mm.
And I remember seeing that. I think The Jungle Book had been released, but they had like coming this Christmas, Beauty and the Beast. And they had like Jerry Orbach singing in the studio and Angel Lansbury singing in the studio.
Oh, yeah.
But the general marketing never, it doesn't have a cast list like lesser animation studios still do to this day. DreamWorks is infamous for that.
I feel like it might have something to do with the overall, just how the 80s went for Disney animation, right?
Yeah.
Talk about being rushed and forced, but still not having a good pace to it. Like there were 5 movies that came out in the 80s, right? When you think about Fox and the Hound and this.
Fox and the Hound, Black Cauldron,
Great
Great Mouse Detective, Oliver and Company, and Little Mermaid. That's 5.
That's 5.
When did
that's
the Rescuers?
90.
Rescuers Down Under was 91, I believe.
It was 90. Actually, it was 90. Actually.
So when you think about like 5 movies in a decade, that's pretty good, right? That's a pretty good clip. That's about what they're doing right now as an animation studio, but it feels sparse somehow. Like the only real hit you have is Little Mermaid.
Fox and the Hound came out in 81.
Yep, and I love Fox and the Hound. Love it.
I haven't watched it since I was a child. I don't know how I'd respond to it.
I can't watch that one again.
And then, so it was 81, and then 85 for the Black Cauldron, 86 for the Great Mouse Detective, 88 for Oliver and Company, and then 89 for the Little Mermaid. So
you had that gap there. That
a lot of gap. That 4-year gap without an animated movie.
They were working hard on this film, and the results weren't there.
Yeah,
at the end, which is unfortunate because it had potential.
Yeah.
So a sparse decade.
It's kind of the first. Black Cauldron's kind of the first to go along with movies like Treasure Planet and Atlantis of being those movies that are definitely earmarked for almost exclusively the boys, and it really doesn't ever work out that well. Like, I mean, Meet the Robinsons is another one that's like that. That's really earmarked specifically for boys. Dinosaur was like when they focus on marketing just to the boys, it really does not seem to work out too well for them.
Yeah, it hurts a bit actually.
Yes.
And then, we saw with talking about their Disney Renaissance when we were talking about Lion King, like musicals make a huge difference, right? You can have something like The Emperor's New Groove in 2000 when you've had Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King. I know you don't love it, but Pocahontas, all of those musicals back to back to back to back to back. And then you have Emperor's New Groove, which is this quirky other thing. When you go from, what would you even call Robin Hood a musical? Like late 70s Disney musical? I music in it, but I wouldn't call it a musical film, right? So when was the last musical before Little Mermaid? You just have this string of these, these very not serious, but these non-musical films. I think it really did a disservice to them in that era.
Well, and this was their first one that had literally no music during the movie. Like all their other ones, even if the characters weren't singing, there was still a song that played.
You're the best of friends, and so much fun together. Yeah, there's something there. The musical song from Robin Hood, or even going back to, even Jungle Book doesn't feel like a full-blown musical. That was 1967. So going forward, I think they were missing that element, which, for as ambitious as this film was, I think that's the element that it was missing for them.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, because there are definitely movies in the Disney canon that you may not remember the movies, but you definitely remember the songs. Like, I would argue that more people could sing along to Everyone Wants to Be a Cat than tell you what movie that's from. And there are plenty of Disney movies like that. And so, I think being completely devoid of that earmarker for them definitely hurt this.
Another thing that definitely stood out to me when I was watching this movie is that Taryn is the main character. Eilonwy is the princess, but their impact on the story is minimal at best. Flute or Flam actually does a few things, like especially at the end, making the deal with the witches. But Taryn is the main character, and pretty much his entire everything he does in this movie just enables the Horn King to actually get the Black Cauldron. I mean, if he had never gone on the mission, I don't think the Horn King would have gotten it. I mean, he's certainly not going to deal with those witches.
He wouldn't have had anything to trade with them, and I mean, killing them wouldn't have gotten him the cauldron.
Right.
Yeah, assuming they even could have killed them.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
they're. I mean, those two are the main characters, and I like their characters. Don't get me wrong, but they are merely they're pretty much just observers to this entire story. They have minimal impact on the plot, and I mean, and let's say Taran does nothing to stop. I mean, he doesn't kill the Horn King. The Horn King's cloak killed the Horn King.
Yeah,
allowing him to drug. So, no capes. And the Mo was right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Continues to be right to this
Horn
day.
King killed by the cauldron.
Yes.
Meta Man.
Well, yeah, no, Taran is very very Indiana Jones in this, where if he does anything, he just helps the bad guys get to where they're going just a smidge faster than they might have.
Yeah. He fails upwards spectacularly.
Yeah. I found a magic sword. Yes, we're escaped, and I'm not going to go back and try and kill the Horn King with this sword. I'm going to instead trade it. The only thing could possibly destroy the sword, the Black Cauldron, I'm going to trade it for the Black Cauldron, and now I can't do anything with it. Oh, look, there's the Gwethanes. They're taking it away. Done.
What do we say about a warrior such as Taran? He had an excellent grip.
Yes, he did.
Seriously, he's strong enough to not also get sucked into the cauldron.
Yes.
End of story. They literally walk off into the sunset at the end of this movie.
Yeah, he's got that Ellen Ripley and Aliens grip.
Yes.
She had a seatbelt.
No, actually, she had to she was grabbing on with her arm. Her arm could have been torn out. Alien.
Yeah, she was hook armed.
You're saying end of Aliens. Okay, I thought I was
Aliens.
I was thinking Alien.
You know, the movie where the woman says, "You all need to stay in quarantine right now," and nobody listens to her, and they all die.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Oh, that movie, Aliens. Peter Parker. Hashtag Peter Parker.
My closing thoughts on this movie is that it's a mess. It's by far not the worst Disney movie. There is some enjoyment to be got out of this. This isn't Home on the Range. This isn't Dinosaur.
Wait, is this Chicken Little?
No. You.
I know what buttons to push. I knew you that well.
Chicken Little, the ugliest Disney movie ever made.
Well, and you have those movies in the 40s that were made during World War II, not Fun and Fancy Free. Melody.
Yeah, Fun and Fancy Free. Yeah. And Melody Time, and Three Caballeros. And
those are smushed together, right? So I like them. They're enjoyable to watch. Those are pieced together. This at least is cohesive enough to be that entire story. If it's not the whole story, but it does feel more cohesive than a bunch of just random scenes popped together.
Right. I mean, the thing with those wartime movies was that's what they could do. They weren't trying to tell one story. They were just they were movies that were tied together with theming.
Right.
Sorry, I stepped on that, Todd.
No, you're good. You're correct.
All right.
I cede my time.
Mike, Tom, closing thoughts on the Black Cauldron.
Thomas, you first.
I mean, Disney is absolutely the studio you want to adapt the Chronicles of Prydain. Just better than what they did here. It's very much it's a fantastic story. I enjoyed reading these books so much that when I play games like Skyrim and I have to enter my name is always Taran, because I enjoy these books so much. And if you're Disney, I absolutely can see matching the proper sensibilities needed to adapt these books. This time, though, was just a big swing and a miss during a really rough transitional time for them.
That's why I feel like the Disney of the 2020s is better capable of handling a series that has to be live action, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
But definitely, I think they can handle this way better than they could 35 years ago when things were awful.
Yeah.
Mike?
My final thoughts. By no means the worst Disney movie I've ever seen. By no means the worst Disney animated movie I've ever seen. But I remember when I was a kid, I remember liking it a lot more than I did when I watched it a few days ago.
That was my thoughts the other day. I remember this movie being better.
Yeah. Again, still worth watching. The characters, well, like, definitely rushed through the story, and the relationships are rushed. The love story between Taryn and Alonwe it just happens. But I like the characters. So
literally pushed together by Gurgi. Yeah. Literally pushed together.
But I like the characters, so it doesn't offend me. There are definitely scenes that don't need to be here. The movie feels rushed. The Horn King is really cool design and really excellently voice acted. I really wish that they left in the scenes of the two soldiers being killed and then turned into the Cauldron Born, because I think that would have made, because as it was, Cauldron Born, they start walking out of the castle and then they're dead. They really pose no threat because their threat is ended before it even starts. So if we could have actually seen something scary, them doing something scary, I think it would have made it a bit more effective. But
that's part of the 12 minutes that was cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also, unfortunately, by that point, had really only developed basically everyone who lives in this world was at the castle, unfortunately.
Except for Dalvin.
Yeah.
But yeah, beyond that, it's not a long movie. It's, like I said, without credits, it's like 76 minutes long. But if you have a spare hour and a half, sit down and watch it. It's certainly not a bad watch.
I think for Disney fans, it's a must watch at least once. If you're trying to introduce people to like all different spans of the Disney eras, you have to watch this. There are definitely movies you can skip. Chicken Little Dinosaur, even Meet the Robinsons, Home on the Range. Those movies can be skipped.
Yeah.
Actually, without this movie, I don't know if we would have gotten Little Mermaid. Because this movie had to have flopped in order for them to start bringing in the likes of Menken and Ashman to really kick off the second Disney Renaissance. So this movie, while not great and a financial flop, was vitally important for that meme. You like Yoda said in The Last Jedi, you learn more from failures. Failures are a great teacher.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and I was about to say, I actually think that watching this would be a good companion piece. Watch this movie, and then watch the Waking Sleeping Beauty documentary.
Yeah,
which is an amazing documentary, but it it really complements what they're talking about in Waking Sleeping Beauty to watch this movie and really understand just how bad things had gotten.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In fact, actually, Mike had recommended both of those to Nick, that she should watch both of those. I actually just recently rewatched Waking Sleeping Beauty, and that is a phenomenal documentary.
Yeah.
Todd, have you watched that one yet?
I have not. It's on
Disney Plus, man.
I know. It's literally on my list on Disney Plus.
I will say it's one of few movies that I bought having only ever watched the trailer, having that much confidence that it was going to be good. And it did not disappoint. I own the DVD of it, and I constantly would pressure and bully people to watch it. And Yeah, it's fantastic. It's in my top 5 documentaries.
It's a ballsy documentary, especially it's a ballsy documentary to have on Disney Plus because it wasn't produced by Disney.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
As far as I'm aware, Tom, you could probably correct me, but I'm fairly certain it's not produced by Disney.
No, it was. It was.
What?
It was part of. They made this. They had this documentary, and the documentary about Disney going to South America. Both those documentaries were made and released at the same time.
Okay.
Maybe even the Schumann Brothers documentary, because the guys who direct the Waking Sleeping Beauty documentary are 2 of the animators from this whole time period.
Right.
They were there. They know what was constantly going on, and that's part of how they were able to get Roy Disney, Michael Eisner, and Jeffrey Katzenberg to talk about that period of time for the first time since the Lion King premiere. Basically, all of those guys talking in the documentary are basically opening up about what was going on publicly for the first time since the Lion King premiere, when they all pretty much agreed they were just not speaking anymore.
Yeah.
You'll never see the Sweatbox on Disney Plus, though.
Yeah, that would be good.
Todd, you had another thing you want to say?
Nope, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm surprised that it's on Disney Plus, so readily available for everybody to see behind the curtain.
Yeah, it really is a good documentary. So, Tom, thank you so much for joining us again. Love having you on.
Thank you guys for having me yet again.
Yes. So, tell us where can we get your podcast, sir?
You can get the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the normal places that you would get a podcast, or where you'd be listening to these guys with Geek Salad for their podcast. And then you can follow us on Twitter @MoviesWork. Keep an eye out. In the next day or 2, we'll be dropping our next episode, which will be Chris Nolan's Inception.
Ooh, that'd be a good one. I love that movie.
I have thoughts.
Okay, good. I can't wait to hear them. By the way, I loved your No Holds Barred and Phantom episodes.
It was very different with the Phantom episode. Oh yes, it was very strange having to defend a movie for a change. Normally I'm on there and we're in agreement, or I'm the one bashing like we did with Little Monsters. But it was very weird going into Phantom, having to put my dukes up and defend the movie a little bit.
Yeah. Awesome. So yes, please check out Tom's podcast. It is fantastic listening. And you can hear me, Mike, and Todd on our podcast, as Tom mentioned, Geek Salad, also available everywhere that Tom's podcast is available. So Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Music, Google Music, iHeart Radio. We're also on YouTube, where you're watching this video right now. Our next episode is due to drop on Monday, May the 4th, where we discuss the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Actually, which had a fun time doing that one. It's also been interesting recording these things kind of under house arrest. So
actually, the last few episodes have not appeared on YouTube for some reason,
which is weird. We have to look into that. But anyway, you can still get the audio episodes everywhere, including our website, geeksalad.podbean.com. We are also available on the socials. We are on Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast and on Twitter at Geek Salad Radio. We also, Mike, hold them up. We have a merch store where you can get t-shirts, mugs, and all that stuff. Go to tpublic.com and enter the keyword Geek Salad Podcast. Eventually, new designs will be coming up, as I keep saying. I just have to come up with some inspiration for some.
Todd has that on vinyl.
Huh?
Todd has that on vinyl.
Yeah, Todd has that on vinyl, and he's got a Sancho story.
Baby.
Hey, Catherine mentioned the Muppets. Drink. So, yes, you can check us out there. Thank you guys so much for joining us for Disney Month. Next week, we're going to stick with the Disney theme, but we're going to actually take a break from movies. We are going to be discussing our favorite attractions in the 4 Florida parks, 1 park per episode. So that is Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. So we're going to be having our discussions there. If we bring guests on, which I'm hoping that we will have some guests on for this, they can help us pick their favorite attraction. And we'll also put that out on our Facebook and Twitter feeds with a poll to get our to get a couple more in there for us to have a more rounded up discussion.
Nice.
So, gentlemen, thank you very much. And until next time, I'm Andy.
Mike.
Go forth and be nerdful. We'll talk to you later.